Hello, everybody. This is Howard the Teaser King coming to you with, we'll call it week 13 of the NFL, week 14 of college. Um, I tried to tell you in the video last week it was going to be a huge week. It was. The locks were 4-0, Liberty, Clemson, Seattle, and then I ended up locking Pittsburgh once Lamar Jackson was out. But the ironic part is I gave you Buffalo or Baltimore on the video because at the time they were all playing, and then we found out later that day they were canceled. So if you took Baltimore early, you won, and I locked Pittsburgh later in the week. Once I found out, that won. So yeah, you got to be careful with the COVID. I mean, I am. If I'm giving you the game, I'm telling you everybody's healthy, or I'll signal out a particular player that's well, he's not playing, and but I'll still make the pick. Like if I give you Seattle, I'm assuming Russell Wilson's playing, and if he gets COVID the next day, then I hope you don't play it. The play is based on him playing. Same thing with Lamar Jackson, and I don't know. They Chase McSorley. I don't know why they didn't start that guy. I'm very high on him, as you've heard me from my other videos. Where I mean, that guy came in and boom, boom, he completed 70-yard touchdown. Granted, it was a fluke play, but still, he could throw the ball. RG3's terrible, and I would have definitely went with McSorley over RG3 any day. I'll bet Baltimore with McSorley all day long. He's better than Jackson. He's a better quarterback. Jackson's a better running passer, but you can see that doesn't get you very far, right? Every time they play a good team, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Lamar Jackson doesn't beat them. McSorley, what? He's that type. Anyway, it was just a huge week. 10-0 in the pros, 12-2 in college. The damn UCF game, we lost with 14 seconds left. I was shocked South Florida scored so much. UCF's defense is much worse than I thought. Uh, the theory was that UCF would score 50, which they did, but South Florida is a real weak team, and I didn't think they would be able to score more than 20, 25 points. We're only laying, I think, we were laying like 14 or 17 in the game, so we had it at the end. But the defense didn't show up, and that's the problem with UCF. They have no defense. So they're a great over team, great scoring and no defense. So anyway, just looking at you got to be careful with this COVID stuff. Now you got to look at like the Pittsburgh Baltimore. They play on Wednesday. What kind of stupid day was that? And so with them playing Wednesday, now you got Pitt screwed up. Pitt's supposed to play Sunday. Well, you got to be careful with Pitt Sunday, and then Baltimore for some reason gets to wait till Tuesday. Yeah, I understand why Pitt would have to play on Sunday. They should play Monday or Tuesday also. They should both play on probably Monday night to allow them to get back in schedule and play their next Sunday game without doing a Wednesday Sunday is ridiculous. So keep an eye on that. Um, I really like Benny Snell Jr., the running back on Pitt. He's really good. He was great at Kentucky, and I didn't realize at the time he was Matt Snell from the New York Jets Super Bowl III. I think he's his nephew. So I didn't realize that. I just said, "Oh, this guy's a really good running back." And when you're doing it on Kentucky against Alabama and Florida and Georgia, then he's a big time running back. Anyway, so now we get to the stage of looking at uh, we're looking at getting near the end. So now you start adding in. So you always are watching for injuries. Now it's does the team need it for the division? Now Buffalo, um, Kansas City wants the 1 seed. I think this year only the 1 seed gets the bye. So KC has to keep winning. They've lost once. Pittsburgh hasn't lost. So there's more pressure on KC to keep winning. Pitt doesn't have the pressure because they're already ahead. They just got to stay ahead. It's unlikely that they'll go 16-0, but it depends on their schedule. I think I was watching yesterday and they showed like Buffalo and Indy left to play. So Indy could beat them with their defense. Buffalo certainly could beat them, but they don't have the defense that you need to stop a Pitt. So you look at that. KC can beat anybody. So this should be a very interesting end of the year. And the same is true with college. Clemson still has that loss, cannot afford another loss. Ohio State has to play 6 games. They won't even win the Big Ten because you got to play 6 games, which is really absurd that they would wait and play so long and then have such a stupid rule in there. What if nobody plays 6 games? I mean, I don't know. Somebody gets the flu and they don't play, and then what? So they go 5-0, but they can't be in the playoff. I mean, it's. Hey, I don't know why I'm so tired. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, so you start looking at other factors that you haven't looked at before, like the team needing the game for the playoffs, the 1 seeds. The lower teams I find I'm not that interested in. In other words, the team that's 6-5 that needs it for the last playoff seed, I don't care. Because that's where you get burned. You bet the team with the 7th or 8th seed to win to get into the playoffs, and you think, well, they need the game for the playoff, and more often than not, they lose because they're really not good teams, and you don't want to invest in weak teams that happen to have an easy schedule, and they win enough, and then they're close to the playoffs. Then they have this big game against a fairly good team, and you bet them to win to make the playoffs, and they lose. So you can't do that. You bet your Kansas Cities because they can't afford to lose. You bet your division winners, your Buffaloes. Maybe I don't even know about Oakland after last week. I mean, what the hell was that? How do you lose to Atlanta like that? Jesus. That's the difference. Seattle goes, and Seattle wins. Seattle goes to Atlanta and beats them by 30. And then Oakland goes, and in a must-win for them, and they lose by 40. So it's hard to understand. These teams. They can look so good against Kansas City, Oakland. I'm talking, and then they go play Atlanta and get killed. So these teams are mysteries. I find that in the whole league, there's very few consistent teams right now. Minnesota, who knows? Green Bay gets killed by Tampa and then looks good. It's against the Bears. Tampa Bay looks good, killing Green Bay, and then really gets killed by Kansas City. I don't know how the game was that close. I ended up taking it over because I really thought that Kansas City would win, but I didn't like only getting 2.5. I didn't trust Tampa because I think the offensive coordinator in Tampa is out of his mind. Watching the game, it's sort of hearing it analyzed. It's like, well, they don't put men in motion like they did in New England. So Brady knows what the defense is: man or zone. And I thought I couldn't believe that Arians isn't doing that. And every pass is everybody go deep, and then Brady's sitting there and he has no dump down. How do you not give a dump down or screen passes? This Arians offense is horrible. I think it's an old offense, right? It's 10 years. It's what he went with Kurt Warner to go to the Super Bowl, but things have changed so much. But to have the most basic, putting a runner in motion to see what the defense is doing should be an automatic, and then. Brady would always hit James White or for a little flare for 10 yards or Edelman across the middle. And he doesn't have either of those 2 routes. It's like, what and then this Arians wants to bitch at Brady. Is he out of his mind? You can't bitch at Brady. It's not his fault that your offense is horrible. So despite you and your offense, he's doing, he does a good job. Anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. Very inconsistent. Um, let's look at the NFL for quick, and I'm going to give you the teams through 11 weeks that are good. So in a teaser now, this is overall. The Bears are 9-2. The Giants of all teams are 10-1 in a teaser. Pittsburgh 10-1 in a teaser. Miami and Buffalo are 10-1 in a teaser. San Diego and Seattle are 10-1 in a teaser, with KC at 9-2. Against, you've got San Diego is against 11-0, so they're 10-1 for and 11-0 against, which means every game they play is a close game. They looks like as a home favorite they lost, because that's their only loss is as a home favorite, and so the other team would have won if you bet the other team. But otherwise they're 11-0, so they play a bunch of close games. On the road, they're 6-0 with and 6-0 against. The Jets, 11-0 against. Buffalo, 10-1 against. Cincinnati, 10-1 against. Philadelphia, 11-1 against. Dallas, 9-2 against. And the Lions, 9-2 against. So now keep an eye on the Lions, a new head coach. They'll probably still be terrible, because you're really not getting rid of the problem, which is Stafford. He's the poison in the team. He's the consistent for the 12 years, 13 years he's been there. He's not very good. He throws for some touchdowns and some yards, but then he disappears. He can't read a defense very well, and he's not a leader. I don't see him being a leader. AKA, if he went to New England, I don't think that New England would be, 10-3 so far this year, or 10-1. So I just think he's a bad attitude, bad player, and he really needs to go. I thought they should have traded him in the number one for Cincinnati for Joe Burrow, so Cincinnati could have had a good veteran quarterback and a number one pick, the third pick in the draft, and they could have drafted Justin Herbert, and then Detroit would have had Joe Burrow, and I thought that would have been the best move. Because the Joe Burrow comes around once every 10 years. Trevor Lawrence, he's okay, but he runs too much, and he reminds me of Josh Allen. He runs around. I don't know how accurate he is, and we'll see what happens in the playoff. But LSU really buried him last year, so and even in Ohio State, he did nothing against Ohio State. He just ran. This is the NFL, We can see what Lamar Jackson does, which isn't. He beats up the bad teams, but against the good teams in the big games, he chokes away. So those are your meaningful plays this year. So let's go with the game. So if I got in concert with it, I have to be careful of injuries and stuff. All right, let's go with Green Bay laying 8.5 to Philadelphia. I just saw that spread. Why Green Bay? Well, let's look at it. Green Bay is 3-2 as a home favorite this year. Not the greatest, 8-3, but I'm more or less betting against Philadelphia. They're 3-1 as a road dog, 3-1 bet against as a road dog, but they're 11-1 against this year. They have absolutely no defense. Rodgers will pick them apart. Really, all they got is Carson Wentz scrambling around. They have no running attack. If I look at the running attack, Green Bay scores 32 a game, gives up 26. So their defense is average, not good. But Green Bay, they'll pass for 280 a game, run for 122. So they'll get 404 yards, but they can run and pass, which is good for the red zone. The running is for the red zone and to rest your defense. That's the key to it. But they have Rodgers, so if they need to pass. So if they get down, they got Rodgers. So we look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia only scores 22 a game, but gives up 25. So that means their defense isn't that good, and they really don't score a lot. They throw for 234, but only run for 116, 350 yards. So their running is mostly Wentz. So if you just spy Wentz, sort of like you do against Arizona, what's his quarterback? Kyler Murray. So if you play it like Kyler Murray, then you'll have no problem with it. Um, that's how I would defend Philadelphia. They don't have receivers. Deshaun Jackson's out. Wentz, or the tight end Zach Ertz is very doubtful for the game. Let's say he plays. I just think Green Bay will score. Will be able to score a lot, and I don't think Philly can keep up. And you're laying less than a field goal. If I go back to 19, Green Bay's 10-4, with and without, and again Aaron Rodgers. I think he played last year, and then the year before he was injured. And Philadelphia's 5-2 is a road dog. 5-3, and then 5-3 against as a road dog, but they're 23-6 against, which is 79%. So Philly's been a bet against team the last couple of years. If I go back to 18, yeah, see Philly, they're 36-11 against, 77%. There's really not a strong trend like they're a terrible road dog, which I like to do. And Green Bay, well, Rodgers was injured in 18, so it's hard to use that stat. But this is just a game that you don't always need the trend. The trend is not the end-all, be-all. In other words, I don't play the game because of the trend only. The trends are used. Like Philadelphia is 11-1 against. That's not the only reason I'm playing Green Bay. Green Bay needs the game. Green Bay wants to hold on to the division and clinch it. And Philadelphia is basically terrible. I mean, they're a bet against team. They got injuries. So I don't see Green Bay having a lot of problems here. And I'm not looking at they killed the Bears. That's not the point of, oh, geez, look how good they were against the Bears. As I always say, they're not playing the Bears this week. They're playing Philadelphia. But it's a very similar type of team, right? Philadelphia with the strong defense and kind of the quarter with no offense, just the running quarterback. The Seattle had them beat, and Philadelphia scored the last play of the game, basically to make it 23-17. But it was basically they were 23-9. They were getting killed regardless, and that was by Seattle, who's comparable to Green Bay with Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. That's how I look at it. Quick trends on head-to-heads. Let me give you those. Chicago, Detroit. This is an unbelievable tendency here. Both teams are 8-0. Chicago is 16-1. That must be 16-1, and Detroit's 16-1. So if you go back the last 17, including the game this year Detroit lost at home. So the Bears, that's why they're both 16-1. In Chicago, everything's 8-0. It's an unbelievable. So they play a bunch of close games. You can't trust Detroit to win. Chicago, you got, I was going to say Rex Grossman, but it's the same, Mitch Trubisky. I mean, they always have terrible quarterbacks. So it's a very, very tight trend. So it's basically take a teaser. You'll win with Detroit 9, you'll win with Chicago in 3. So Chicago will probably win the game by 6 points. Indy and Houston, the dog is 15-1 in this series. Both in Houston, Indy and the dog is 8-0. So Indy must have been the dog a lot in Houston and covered. But the dog in the series is 15-1. New Orleans and Atlanta. In Atlanta, New Orleans is 7-1. The dog is 7-1. And the dog in the series is 15-1. So even when Atlanta went to the Super Bowl, New Orleans still covered as the dog in Atlanta. And in the series, the dog is 15-1. So you have, again, Um, you have again where it's a dog series. Now it's a little hard to bet Atlanta in 9, but as long as I would look at if Julio Jones plays, he's questionable with the hamstring. If he plays, I would take Atlanta in the 9 here. Um, Again, Denver didn't have a quarterback, so you can't really look at New Orleans killing Denver and translating it here. Atlanta sees New Orleans twice a year, so they know what to expect. Now, in the first game in New Orleans beat them fairly easily, and so I look for Atlanta to be pretty spirited here and give them a good game. L.A. and Arizona, the favorite is 7-1. It's weird how sometimes it's a dog series, sometimes it's a home series, sometimes it's a favorite series. So here, LA is very good in Arizona. LA 6-2, and the favorite is 7-1. So this is an LA trend. KC Denver, same thing. The favorite is 7-1 in Kansas City, and that's all we have. Um, I don't really have over unders. I'm not really crazy about too many of these. The games have been so weird. You'll get high scoring games. Now, I did luck out with the over in the Tampa KC game, but barely at the end. Um, but it just seems earlier in the year, the defenses hadn't had training camp, and you're getting a lot of scoring. And I was winning a ton going over with the Green Bays and the Minnesotas and all the good over teams. And then everything's settling down, and now you're not getting you're not really getting the over team blowing, putting up a 60. And then this week you've got a lot of overs playing unders, like Green Bay's playing Philly. Well, Philly's a low scoring team. Green Bay could be a high scoring team. How do you play it? San Diego, New England, same thing. San Diego scores with their quarterback, but New England, they just run the ball. They're like freaking Army. They're just running the quarterback 30 times and running the clock. They're more of an under team than Army and Navy are. Buffalo, Frisco. Buffalo's an over team, not a lot of defense. Frisco's an under team. So when you get that, there's really not a good way to play it. What you're ideally looking for is 2 overs or 2 unders playing, and then you go under, then you go over. And the other thing I'm really noticing is like an A team. So if New Orleans plays Atlanta, and New Orleans is an A team, which means they score a lot and have a really strong defense. They're playing Atlanta, an over team. It's not going over because the defense of the A team is making the game, making the other team not as explosive, and also then New Orleans starts running the ball, working out the time. Teams have been doing that to Green Bay and Seattle where they just run it to not let the other team have the ball. Although all those teams lose, it's never a winning strategy because you get out of your suit. You don't play your game. You're playing, let's run the ball. And it's not a good thing to do. But those are the trends. So I gave you the teaser trends, the heads up trends. Now last week I raved pocket aces all over the place. It was. I mean, it was very easy, 10-0. Then Denver announces the quarterback's out. I jump on Denver. Baltimore loses Jackson and Dobbins. I jump on Pittsburgh. So I don't know what I'm getting this week. I don't know if Denver's quarterbacks are out. I don't think so. KC, it's a large number. Can't get excited. Same thing, Baltimore plays Dallas. Is Jackson going to be back? I prefer Chase McSorley to be the quarterback, and then I'd be more confident in Baltimore. Pittsburgh, how do you play them when you don't, they're on 5 days, not even, it was Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, so they got 3 days, and they expect them to play. And that game's probably going to be moved to Monday or Tuesday, I assume. If it's moved to Tuesday, I probably like Washington anyway because I think they've got a good defense, and they've been moving the ball. And Pitt's defense, it's okay, but it's not the steel curtain. I don't see Jack Lambert out there. So that's what I see. But it should be, I should have about 6 strong plays that I see, again, depending on trends and the point spread moving. Um, like right now, I got Buffalo 1 over San Francisco. If Frisco goes favorite, I love Buffalo. And San Diego 1 over New England. If New England goes favorite, I love San Diego. If the spread goes to 3, I love New England. So again, I'm waiting on point spread changes. So that's your first game. Take Green Bay over Philly. Now let's get to the college game. And at least I gave you 2 winners out of the 3, UCF. But it was funny. UCF was like my only big loser. My other loser was, I think, Indiana, Maryland over, but Indiana, the quarterback got hurt, and he's out for the year. So we can talk about that real quickly. So let's go through the college. Here are your Z teams. Your Z teams score like 10 to 15 points a game and give up over 30. And I'll quickly go through those. Navy, Louisiana Monroe, Utah State, UNLV, Vanderbilt, Michigan State, Nebraska, both Bowling Green and Akron, which play each other, Syracuse, Kansas, New Mexico. Those are your Z teams. Those are, if I get a good offensive team. So in other words, when I get SMU and they're playing Temple, I'm going to take SMU, or against South Florida. Or what I thought was UCF South Florida was a perfect storm. But that's the idea. These Z teams really have no defense. And really I'm looking for an explosive team to bury the team with no defenses. Because the only way, that's why Cincinnati, and I've talked about them, that's why they beat SMU and UCF, because they have the good defense. The defense will stop the offense. But if you have a bad defense and a good offense goes against a bad defense, they're going to score and score and score, and there's nothing the defense can do because they're a bad defense. So that's what you're looking for. So let's go right to the top. Clemson laying 21.5 to Virginia Tech. I gave you Clemson last week, and they blew them out, and they were 35-0 first quarter. And I knew they were pissed because they lost, and then Florida State screwed them because Florida State's quarterbacks are injured, so they're all crying COVID, and they're not playing, and I don't know if they're playing this week. Sort of a bad way to play. Well, our quarterback's hurt, so let's forfeit the game. I mean, that's insanity. But I like Clemson, again, 22, so let's look at it. Clemson scores 46 a game and gives up a total of 19. They throw for 360, they run for 150, and that's 2 games without Lawrence, 5-12 in offense. Virginia Tech, now they score 33, but the key to the bet is they give up 33 also. Hendon Hooker is a good quarterback, but they're throwing for 199 and running for 251. And all I know is it's extremely difficult to run on Clemson. You got a running team that you're not going to do it. And when you get down 34-0, what are you going to do? So it's going to make it very difficult to run on Clemson, especially when you're down. And there's no way Virginia Tech's going to stop Clemson. Clemson's going to put up another 50. Clemson lost the game. Notre Dame hasn't. Notre Dame looked good beating North Carolina. I had Notre Dame. And got another good winner last week. Again, now I'm playing playoff. Clemson needs to keep winning. They lose, they're out. They've lost once. They got to play Notre Dame probably in the championship game. And Notre Dame, I don't think Notre Dame can beat them with Trevor Lawrence. But Clemson's got to get there. And if they have 2 losses, they're not going to get there. So they're going to be fire in their eyes the rest of the year. 22 down to 16 is a very manageable number. Their backup came in just like I told you he would. Now he's experienced. He started and played in 2 full games. So he got the confidence, and he lit it up last week fairly good. I hate when they take Lawrence out in the beginning of the fourth quarter because you're afraid, then they're going to let the other team put up 2 touchdowns and kill the bet. But this time they were ready, the backup was fine. And so I see the same thing happening here. Look for Clemson to put up 35, 40 points by halftime against a weak defense in Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech might get a few scores. Maybe they'll get 20, but again, you're laying 15, 16. So if they get 20, you need 35. They'll have that by halftime. Clemson should be in the 50s here, and I don't see Virginia Tech getting there. They'll try to run it, but it's hard to run on Clemson. Very difficult. Ohio State did it to some success, but it wasn't. And even LSU had a difficult time with all their pros getting there. So definitely like Clemson. Only laying 15, 16 points. Definitely very strong play. Remember, Clemson can't afford to lose, and they won't in this situation. I'm going to give you a third game. Alabama. Where are you, Alabama? Alabama's laying 29 to LSU. And I told you last week, I didn't think they were playing this year because the game got canceled. And I said, well, I wish they were playing because if they were, look out. So here's Alabama. They score 49 a game, give up 18. That's the definition of an A team. 358 yards passing, 178 rushing, 536 total offense. LSU scores 30, but they don't have a defense. They don't have a running back either. They're all passing. So they score 30 a game, give up 30. Keep in mind their quarterback's out. Some guy, TJ Finley's the quarterback. I didn't mind their other quarterback. I thought he was okay. Mecklenburg, I think, or something like that. He wasn't their problem. Their defense sucked. But now you're giving 30. Now they throw for 313 a game, and that's with the other quarterback a few games. They only run for 112. They don't really have a good running back. It's just an average. And so they get 400 yards a game. Let's take a look at their quarterback. It's called TJ Finley. So if I go to the SEC and I go to Mr. Finley, TJ Finley's played in 4 games. He's 66 out of 112, 59%, which is not very good. His yards per game is 199. The 313 includes Miles Brennan was throwing for 370 a game, just so you understand. So their replacement for Burrow throws for 370 a game, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's out. He would have given him a chance. I would have bet the game over. But here you got Finley, who's playing in the 4 games, 199. He's got 4 touchdowns and 5 picks. The alarm goes off. 4 touchdowns and 5 picks. See, Brennan had 11 and 3. Kyle Trask, 34 and 3. That's a real quarterback from Florida. And Mac Jones, 23 and 3. So you're not seeing a lot of interceptions out of that. 4 and 5, not very good. So what you have here is really not the trend. The 313 is an average with Brennan in. Take him out, and you're looking at maybe 200. You're still not getting any running. And the best receiver in the country, Chase, is sitting out this year for some reason. I don't understand that. I'd be really pissed. I give the kid a scholarship. He's the best receiver, and he's not playing. Like, are you know, I'm so tired of these guys. I got to get ready for the pro draft. Well, then he should have left school last year, but I think he's too young. And then the best cornerback in the country, I think he got injured. The kid in the championship game who was so good. So, you know, they've lost some superstars, which doesn't help them, but it helps us in this game. Now, the reason for the bet is Alabama is totally pissed off. LSU buried them. And, you know, Joe Burrow took him to the woodshed and just crushed them. And they don't forget that, right? And if you look at Alabama this year, they blew out Texas A&M, who I don't think's that good. But They want to make Texas A&M number 5 because they beat Florida on a fluky play, but that's okay. But they're not that good. Alabama beat them by 40 points. Your spread is 29. You're going to lay 23. Take Alabama, lay the 23 all day. I'm scared to go over because I don't think LSU can get enough points with Finley. With the other quarterback out, have taken the game over. With Finley, I'm not, but there's not 313. It's 200 passing, so it's a 300-yard offense. And the scoring average of 30 is because of the other quarterback. So with Finley, they're probably not. They're probably playing lower scoring games. I think they were in the 20s last week. I think they beat like South Carolina 24-20. But no, I don't think their defense is as bad as it was in the beginning of the year, but it's still bad. Just look for Alabama to just roll. Again, this is revenge. There's a difference. I'll hear people talk about revenge games. There's revenge games from teams like Mississippi State lost to Mississippi, and now it's a revenge game. But they can't revenge because they're not that good. But when you got an Alabama or a Clemson in a revenge game, that is a revenge game you want to bet because they can do something about it. Because when you have the superstars and you play and then you get them jacked up because it's revenge and we lost. Like if Clemson played LSU, they'd want blood too for beating them in the championship game. And like Ohio State against Clemson, Ohio State would want blood, but the difference is Clemson's so good you can't bet Ohio State in a revenge game. Now if Ohio State loses to Purdue, you can get them in a revenge game. You can take Ohio State against the Purdue, but you can't take them against the Clemson. But here, because LSU's so weak this year, this is going to be a slaughter. Alabama will easily be in the 60s and not stop scoring. LSU, maybe they get to 20. It'll be just like a regular Alabama Saturday this year. They win by 40 or more. You're laying 23. I'm not worried about Alabama pulling their quarterback per se, like Clemson. I think Alabama leaves them in until they get a good 50 up on them. They haven't been pulling them. They've just been running the ball. But when they run the ball, they got Najee Harris, who's an all-pro. He's a high draft pick running back. So even when they got the lead and they're giving it to Harris, they're still going to score. And even if they take Harris out, the replacements are superstars. So that's the difference. Like when Clemson goes to the bench versus Alabama going to the bench. So even if they'll leave Jones and put in the second team or third team running back, they can still go. And their defense still, I see them getting at least 3 interceptions, probably the pick six or the punt return. Alabama every game seems to get a punt return for a touchdown, a pick six for a touchdown, or they sack the quarterback, he fumbles, they run it. They always get a couple of defensive touchdowns in the game. So there you have it. Take Green Bay, take Clemson, take Alabama. Those are my 3 of many. I have a lot of college picks this week. It's a very good week, college. Like I say, you get a handle of what's going on now. The more they play, but it's later in the year. And in the pros, there's probably 5 or 6 plays. So I don't see, like I had a 21 unit lock last week, which is going to be Colorado and Seattle. Colorado against USC was getting 12 points, so I took Colorado in 18, and then the game gets canceled. So then Colorado plays San Diego State or San Jose State. So I had to switch the Seattle lock to playing it with Pittsburgh. And I didn't do that till I think Saturday night once I knew all the Baltimore guys were out. So that lock went down, I think, 17 units, and the other was 17. I'll probably have a couple of 17-unit locks. Now, one thing I want to do is it's December now, so let's go and we'll do the rest of the year for $200. So just buy the monthly pro package or college that says 200. Buy that, and then I'll give you the password for the rest of the year. all the college through the playoffs, all the pros through the Super Bowl. Sort of what I do each year at the end, just so you can make some good money and not have to worry about, each week and Christmas and everything. So Teaser King year-end special, $200 buys you everything through the Super Bowl and everything through the College Bowl. Happy to do that. Made a lot of people a lot of money last week. I was very happy. And it's just, like I said, some weeks are tough and you can't run the table, but then you get the next week where you can run the table. So in the pros, last week was a 10-0 week, and I told you I had a lot of pocket aces games, a lot of strong games that the trends were there. The week prior, I had the Seattle getting points, San Diego getting points, Buffalo was getting points. It was that's what I'm looking for. But again, this week Seattle's favored, San Diego's favored, and Buffalo's favored. So you can't. There's nothing you can do when they're all favored when you're looking for them as the dog. And the problem some weeks you can't trust it. Like Minnesota's 10 over Jacksonville, you can't trust the game. I don't know which Minnesota team's going to show up. I don't know what Jacksonville team's going. They seem to be scoring Jacksonville even without Minshew. So that's the problem, right? I can't take Jacksonville in 16 with a lot of confidence, and I can't trust Kirk Cousins and Minnesota lane 4, so it becomes I can't really play it. I don't know if it's high scoring or low scoring. So it becomes a very difficult, you just throw the game out. And there's been too many of those types where these teams are all over the place. There's not consistency. My final thought is I was watching Moneyball. It's on Netflix, and it doesn't work. They try to make it sound like if you do it, it'll work. And look at the Boston Red Sox won the championship using it. That's bullshit. The reason it doesn't work is you need the superstars to win. Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Derek Jeter, Roger Clemens. You win with those players. The Yankees won 5 times with Derek Jeter. They won 10 times with Mickey Mantle. The Dodgers won because of Sandy Koufax. It goes on and on and on. That's the key to winning is the superstar. And that movie suggests, well, you don't want the superstar. You'll win without him. And Oakland will never win the World Series with a bunch of small guys trying to do walks. This whole thing about not stealing and not bunting is ridiculous. That's part of the game. You should bunt, you should steal. You don't just go for walks and try to hit 100 foul balls so you get to the 10th pitcher in the league. Earl Weaver would be rolling over in his grave right now if he watched what's going on now. He was all defense and pitching, and that's what won Baltimore for 10 years. They were the best team in the late 60s and early 70s. Although they lost to Pittsburgh and the Mets, they were still a great team. So it doesn't work. It's always, I won more money with Joe Montana and Lawrence Taylor and Jimmy Johnson coaching the Cowboys with Emmitt Smith and Tom Brady than you win without them. Now it's Mahomes. You win money because of Mahomes. Mahomes pulls the games out. It's not Andy Reid. It's Mahomes. That's why you win. So if Moneyball is suggesting well, you don't need Mahomes, you can just plug in, Kirk Cousins and he'll win for you. Well, look at Kirk Cousins. He's overpaid. He killed Minnesota because they couldn't re-sign all their defensive players, and he's not that good. And that's the whole problem with Moneyball. And if we look at Oakland, when did the Oakland A's win? Reggie Jackson, Joe Rudy, Sal Bando, Jim Catfish Hunter, Vita Blue, Raleigh Fingers. I can go on and on. Bill North, Campy Campaneris, Gene Tennis. They won because of the superstars. And that always holds true over a bunch of nobodies that when the pressure's on, the reason they're not very good is when the pressure's on, they go away. And to win the playoffs and the World Series, you've got to be good under pressure. So it defeats the whole point of that. And I see it in football where these idiot coaches keep going for 2 and they go for 4th downs on their own 30-yard line. Well, the isometric says to go for it on 4th and 2 at the at your own 30 because you'll make the 4th down, and it's like, no, there's certain categories of 4th down you can make. 4th and 2 and the game's on the line at your own 30, you're never going to make. You're going to make 0% of the time. Same thing with the 2-point conversion. It works if you're up 27-3 and you score to make it 27-9. Then maybe you go for 2, maybe you get it. But if the game's 27-26 and you go for 2 to win it, you'll get it 0% of the time because it's the defense plays different. It's a different mode. It's a different thought process. So you can't blandly. It's like me with the teasers. I got to look at is the game meaningful? Is the oh wait, Clemson, they're pissed off. They want to get in the playoffs. Well, you can't put that in the isometrics and then call that anything. You've got to know the situation. It's all situation. Same thing, like I said, with Kansas City this week, where they have to win to keep pace with Pitt to get the number 1 seed. Same thing with Green Bay, New Orleans. They're hunting for the 1 seed. So anyway, so that's how I end. So again, $200 buys you the rest of the year, college and pro, through the Super Bowl, through the college playoffs. This week should be a very strong week. I'll probably have 2 locks, maybe just 1. It's not really a lock week, but there's a lot of good games. Like Seattle laying 6 to Philly, making Seattle even with Philly's injuries was easy lock. You have Russell Wilson, you know that they're going to win, and they won easily. So that's my point. Clemson over whoever they play last. Pittsburgh, easy lock. That's what you're looking for. A strong team who needs to win the game, or a matchup, or you're going against the Z team who's very weak, like UMass. I had Liberty over UMass. That was my lock. Liberty, Clemson, 17 units. Who the hell locks Liberty? But Liberty scores 38 and gives up 19. Mass scores 3, gives up 40. Mass has no offense. Liberty's on fire, thrown for 500 yards. And they win by 50 points. And there you go. That's exactly what you're looking for. All right. Well, have a great day, and good luck this weekend. Should be another strong weekend. And like I said, the more information out, the population size gets better statistically, and it makes me a lot more efficient in picking the games. Okay, everybody, www.teaserking.com. Buy the month for $200, and I'll give you the password for the full end of the year. Okay, everybody, good luck and win a lot of money. Take care.